Hello and welcome everyone to the 5G Factor. I'm Ron Westfall, Research Director here at the Futurum Group. And I'm joined here today by my distinguished colleague, Olivier Blanchard, our Research Director focused on key areas such as devices and semiconductors. And that includes 5G naturally. And today we'll be focusing on the major 5G ecosystem developments that have caught our eye. And specifically, we're going to focus more on GenAI and its impact on the mobile ecosystem, including especially telcos, and what can now really be characterized as the telco GenAI market segment. And so, Olivier, welcome back to the 5G Factor, and many thanks for joining today. How have you been bearing up between our episodes? And that includes, well, your wedding. And again, a hearty
Yeah,
kudos on the nuptials.
yeah. There's the little ring right there. So thank you. Yeah, I just got married. So well,
Outstanding.
I'm getting back into the swing of things. Yeah, no, it's I took almost a week off, and that was nice. I came back with a cold. You can probably hear it in my voice. I don't usually sound this sexy, but I'll take it. It's one of the cool things about getting a cold is I sound like this. I usually record my voicemail message um, when I have a cold.
Well, you could sound a bit more authoritative, perhaps.
Yeah.
And if it's any consolation, something is going around. I just had to deal with one myself. So that aside, again, it's just great to have that ring, and perhaps, yeah, we can work that into our narrative today.
Sure.
The ring of Gen AI and what it means for the entire mobile ecosystem. And so, with that, hey, let's jump right in because, as we know, Mobile World Congress 2024 was almost a month ago by now. And as such, we can describe 2024 itself also as the year of AI, with Gen AI taking a starring role. I think that's a pretty broad consensus. And the mobile ecosystem naturally is no exception. In fact, some folks are suggesting that Mobile World Congress should rebrand itself as AI World Congress. However, I would not hold my breath on that exactly developing anytime soon. But with that in mind, while AI and Gen AI were certainly the dominant themes that were driving the conversations there is some concern and criticism out there that it's already being overhyped. And naturally, our conversation will address that. I don't think it's actually being overhyped simply because, for one thing, it's at the front end. It's still only a year old. And so I think we're going to really see a lot of, I think, creative ideas, partnerships, innovation coming to the forefront. And so, bear with it as we sort through, why it's important to the mobile ecosystem, let alone the entire tech sector. But I think part of the concern was that it was drawing attention away from key 5G initiatives in areas such as 3GPP releases 16 through 18, and the monetized dimension is still not there yet. But again, we're at the beginning of the journey, and so
Yeah.
some of these things I think aren't going to be ready yet. But also, I don't think it's really distracting from the important groundwork that's going on in 5G itself. In fact, one area that I think Gen AI can have a near term tangible impact is an area that I don't think has gotten its due is Gen AI coding assistance. And at the show, BT Group announced that it deployed Amazon Q's coding companion, known as Amazon Code Whisperer, to provide Gen AI coding assistance to its software engineers. Now, the solution is already providing 15 to 20 suggestions of code per active user per day for BT Group. And with an acceptance rate of 37% reported by its software engineers who are using the platform, I see this as an example already of where the value, efficiency, and support that generative AI can offer to the telcos specifically. Now, as foreground, Amazon Q, it can be tailored to a business by connecting it to company data, information, and systems made simple with more than 40 built in connectors. So, in essence, AWS is coming in with Amazon Q and saying, hey, look, we've done some of the heavy lifting already. This is meant to be, set for your business needs, and not, having it shoehorned into, okay, if you want to onboard, you have to, strictly comply with AWS, Amazon Q requirements. Now, as such, in addition to the coders, it can support business users such as marketers, project program managers, sales reps, and quite simply, they can have tailored conversations that solve problems, general content, plus, recommend and enable actions. So it's not just for the coders, at least the Amazon Q part, but also for, key decision makers across the entire organization. And BT Group is coming to mind. Now, drilling down specifically, Amazon Code Whisperer generates suggestions ranging from snippets to full functions in real time in the customer integrated developer or development environment. And that's also referred to as IDE. Now, in this case, BT, based on their coders' comments and existing code, it can also support command line completions and natural language to bash translation in the command line. Also, I think it's important to note that, from my view, Code Whisperer is making a difference because it can also flag or filter code suggestions that align with publicly available code using open source project repository information and license for review and attribution. So right away at the starting gate, we're seeing where it's having impact specifically with one major telco. And it's not just, Gen AI in terms of a conversational natural language capability for, say, customer support, which is also important. Naturally, we'll touch on that. But also, Olivier, from your perspective, what is, really important that's coming out of in terms of how the telcos are taking advantage of Gen AI capabilities, at the starting gate?
Yeah, so it's funny. We started with the not generative AI specifically, but AI and telcos in terms of sort of managing power and optimizing connections with even just millimeter wave, RF systems, right? So we kind of saw the start of AI integration into telcos with these sort of like meat and potatoes, but extremely complicated engineering problems being solved by AI on chip, and obviously on the other end too, on the antenna side. And now we've just kind of like moved forward into a problem that seems actually simple, or simpler to solve, just because it's solved more by software, and on a bigger scale. And this generative AI thing essentially sort of like it takes over tasks that are very naturally very complex, very sort of like expensive in terms of time and resources, and shrinks them down. And so this no code thing, or low code, I would say actually just prompting, or switching from code to prompt. And I think this is kind of like the trend that you're alluding to, that we're seeing pretty much across the board with everything. And I'm reminded of a presentation at HP Amplify, by NVIDIA's CEO, which he sort of repeated and expanded on at GTC last week, when I was on my little short honeymoon. I missed a lot last week apparently, and it's basically this trend to go from coding to prompting. Like what's the new thing? What you prompt is what you get. I think that's a trend across the industries, and so telcos are on the bleeding edge of this, for obvious reasons, just for scale, if nothing else. I think that Amazon doing this is a natural fit for their business problem, their business model, AWS anyway, and you're going to see that kind of spread across the industry. I think everybody's doing this. We're also seeing a big push by the chip manufacturers, whether it's Qualcomm, AMD, Intel, and others, and NVIDIA, obviously, to open up their platforms to developers. And one easy way of doing that is by enabling these kind of like low code and no code implementations, so that anyone with very little training can essentially just kind of like learn to prompt what they want to build, and just tell the system what they want the outcome to be, and tweak things with prompts rather than with code, and the AI takes over and does the work for them. And I think it's a fascinating. Well, I mean, it's a great time to be alive, right? But it's a fascinating sort of path to democratizing Gen AI and coding,
Yes.
where it reduces barriers of entry so that people who don't necessarily have the time, the resources, or even the capability to learn how to code can still create apps and create all sorts of cool products and solutions for themselves or for their companies, or to monetize using this ecosystem. I think it's wonderful. It's actually one of the cooler things about the Gen AI revolution so far. Because there are a lot of things that I worry about with Gen AI, and it's definitely, for the most part, I agree with you, not overhyped. I think in some areas it might even be underhyped, especially the
Right.
speed with which it's evolving and the speed with which we're not coming up with safeguards for some of this stuff. Um, but I think this low code no code approach is one of the cooler aspects of this Gen AI age that we're entering, whether we like it or not.
And those are excellent points, Olivia. In fact, that triggers two immediate thoughts on my side, and that is yes, AI ethics, responsible AI.
Yeah,
We're going to see more of this being built into organization decision making. How the company is literally organizing itself, but also at the board of directors level and certainly the CX level. This is how the organization will approach AI, pretty much akin to what is already being done with sustainability and ESG. Make it more official, more formalized. It'll be necessary because you're already seeing, for example, the EU, coming up with regulations
yeah.
that will pretty much encourage that, if not enforce it. And yeah, to your point about NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang's, notion that could be characterized as, mamas, don't let your kids grow up to be coders, is maybe
Yeah.
maybe a bit of an exaggeration in the near term. However, it does point to a key megatrend here, and that is natural language skills that can, assist the prompting can actually be, if not more valuable, at least just as valuable as coding skills as we know them today. So that means study up on your English lessons, folks out
Hey,
there.
listen, I am glad that liberal arts majors will finally get their moment in the sun thanks to AI and prompting. I love this from the
Yeah.
ethics side of it, and also from the language and sort of like reference side of it. So I'm thrilled. I love that.
Right on, right on. Yeah, in the tech world, it gives a little more level playing field,
Yeah.
for just that. And so that I think is a great point. And with that, I think that does segue into the next area we're looking at, which is another important alliance when it comes to Gen AI and its impact on the telcos and the mobile ecosystem. That is Amdocs and Microsoft. And what they did at the show was that they expanded their partnership to quite simply bring verticalized Gen AI capabilities to the telecommunications industry by combining Amdocs amAIz platform and Microsoft Azure OpenAI Service. And I think we're going to see more of that. We're already seeing more of that. But what I think is important is that it's being targeted specifically at the telco sector. So yes, general LLMs, large language models, are important, in terms of kickstarting, say, learning how to use a copilot for many general interest areas. But as we know, at the end of the day, it has to align with the assets, the data assets specifically of the telcos, for it to be meaningful in terms of improving business outcomes. And so, as such, the duo has established a dedicated lab and a center of excellence to further productize Gen AI capabilities with the goal of quite simply accelerating Gen AI adoption for the communication service providers. Now, the collaboration is designed to drive tangible business results, as I touched on, by combining deep expertise in the communications industry with Gen AI technology. And as a such, the industry verticalization can produce carrier grade business outcomes, not just general dialogue that can help, say, a customer service rep, but it's again organization wide impact. And we're already seeing that with the BT group example. That's not just about low hanging fruit, such as customer support, but many different areas. And so, to that end, the amAIz platform is accelerating data ingestion and enlists also, I think this is important, Amdocs patent pending large language model routing capabilities. And that will enable, for example, enhanced model precision through retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, quite simply, and optimized token consumption. And that is important for privacy safeguards, for example. Now, in addition, Microsoft and Amdocs have constructed the partnership to really boost Amdocs' customer engagement platform, which includes multiple, again, copilot products, including sales, order enrichment, care, proposals, and more. And again, furthering that interconnected experience across the entire telco organization. Also, Amdocs is working with, NVIDIA on optimizing the LLMs to improve the latency, accuracy, and cost effectiveness of the Gen A applications and services. Now, in conversations with CSPs at the show and around this show, I'm seeing that the CSP decision makers are definitely prioritizing data privacy and data security. And so we touched on that already. But these are really at the top of the list when you're talking to the telcos specifically. And I think that's going to be true for many organizations across the board. But this is how I think the vendors out there need to proceed in terms of why telco Gen AI. And this is exactly what the alliance with Microsoft and NVIDIA is already addressing. That is, they're already driving, again, more effective customer care, but also that process efficiency with the built in safeguards. And so we're seeing, again, improvement in areas such as bill experience, improved self service, and also improving internal processes such as configure, price quote, or CPQ. And as we've seen, the CPQ process can be complex and also time consuming. And so, through the Gen AI CPQ pilot, we see Amdocs customers automating the proposal process.
Yeah, I think no, I think what you're pointing out here is I don't have a lot of commentary on that because it's a solid approach. I would just add a little bit of kind of like surrounding color. So one of the things that I'm looking at right now is sort of the expansion of the Gen AI space from LLM, so large language models, to LMM, which is large mixed models. And so if you understand what large language models, it's really based on natural language, right? A mixed model looks at other inputs like images, sound, so music, voice, whatever. Um, and so we're seeing sort of like an expansion of the Gen AI capability space to LMMs. However, in the case of telcos, where you're looking at internal systems and billings and analysis and different types of processes, most of that for their uses is going to be still based on natural language, whether it's written or any other form. And so it makes sense. But then when you're expanding to other areas of a business, for instance, maintenance and repairs, and you're looking at a Gen AI to assist maintenance crews in understanding a problem, you may want to have this mixed opportunity or capability where essentially you can take a picture of a problem and the Gen AI engine will essentially kind of understand what it's looking at and can reference user guides or any kind of other mechanical or engineering reference and see what the problem is and give you an answer on that. Or it might be just kind of like a voice problem that's converted from voice to text, and then the input is analyzed, and then an answer can be generated. So it's I think the LLM approach is sort of like the core baseline, like kind of like year one to year two approach to this. But I would look for this LMM expansion to take on a little bit more speed as businesses realize that there are use cases for it, and the service providers realize that there's definitely a revenue opportunity there. And it's going to be handled by the same kind of, it's still going to be NVIDIA. It's still going to be, it's essentially the same capability. It's just a little bit of a different software around it.
That's an outstanding point, Olivier, and I think can also align with other important capabilities that are being used today. For example, digital twins comes to mind,
Yeah.
and so LMM would be well suited for that.
Yep.
And and also, as Gen AI becomes more embedded across, the telco org, I think it's important that the Gen AI copilots, as well as LMM copilots, as they emerge, basically align with the entirety of, the telco data set. And so, what I see are important takeaways is that the telco specific LLM needs to be aligned with just that. It's better designed versus an off the shelf option, and also that's also important to minimize drift or hallucinations, which, as we all know, is
Right.
dreaded. And but I think rounding back to your point, I think that's an outstanding one, Olivia, about having low code, no code environments, because again, that will basically minimize the need for data scientists and developers to be focused on these types of areas, certainly in the near term. And thus, I think that will quite simply streamline the automation processes throughout the telco organization. So that's really the other shoe dropping, in addition to what we already touched on. And that would fully align naturally with the LMM advent. And so, with that, let's now turn to, again, the theme of vertical specific and telco specific Gen AI, and an important announcement that came out at the show. And so let's look at Qualcomm, speaking of the processor guys, and its new Snapdragon X80 5G modem RF system and its impact on what I call the AI mobile ecosystem. Now, this new offering features new AI innovations based on a dedicated tensor accelerator to improve data speeds, latency, quality of service, coverage, location accuracy, spectrum efficiency, and multi antenna management, as well as power efficiency. Now, taken together, it's also a way for basically the telcos to really take that part that we touched on at the very beginning, but this is impacting the 5G capabilities in a very specific and on the ground way. For example, it's integrating a dedicated 5G AI processor and 5G advanced ready architecture to achieve what is seen as important milestones. For example, really the first 5G modem with fully integrated NB-NTN satellite communication support, as well as 6 antenna architecture for smartphones, 6x carrier aggregation, and AI-based millimeter wave range extension for fixed wireless access CPE. Now, from your view, Olivier, is this really the most advanced modem to antenna platform you've seen to date yet?
Yes, it is.
All right, all right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it is. And the thing is, like, I mean, love them or hate them, Qualcomm is always going to. Well, I mean, I can't say they always will, but historically, they've come out with the best connectivity solutions, and it's fun that watching them expand into automotive and all these different areas. But this is their core business initially, right?
yes.
They do modems pretty much better than anybody else, especially this high end sort of not even premium. It's just flagship stuff. They're always ahead of everybody, and there's a good reason why even Apple, despite their historical legal disputes and whatnot. iPhones are still using Qualcomm modems for the most part, and will for the foreseeable future. So yeah, so we have this amazing modem RF system from Qualcomm again, that sort of like answers all of the engineering questions or tries to address all of the engineering problems or challenges that 5G and all these devices have. So on the one hand, you need huge throughput that's reliable and fast with low latency. If nothing else for gaming, Qualcomm's really big with its OEM like partners with mobile gaming and what they call, I think, elite gaming. And so you need a really powerful modem that can handle all this stuff. So 6 antennas, it's massive. You need a lot of AI on board also to manage all that, to handle the power management. But what I think what's interesting, since your theme is AI, not necessarily all these other applications, is you know AI is the number one driver of technology innovation today. And I don't think there's any system or system of systems, whether it's silicon or software or anything in between, that isn't designed to either enable more AI capabilities or optimize AI through AI. And so what's important to remember here with this modem is, if you take a step back and look at the AI ecosystem as kind of like a holistic, sort of like a 10,000 foot view. I'm just using cliches right now, but like just kind of like zoom out, double click, circle back. The AI ecosystem is essentially AI in the cloud, right? AI on devices now, or at least it's starting to be that. And then AI on the edge with, like, kind of like on-prem and servers and AI capabilities that are kind of like on the edge of the network. So you have this entire ecosystem of device to cloud, with connectivity in between. And so even though we're going to see a lot more AI, and especially Gen AI, um, workloads happening directly on the device, whether it's a phone or a PC or a tablet or some other device, there's still a lot of applications that go back and forth, and that are going to be handled on the cloud. There's a lot of connectivity going on. Even if the workload is mostly on the device, there's still a lot of stuff going on in the background. So you need modem and modem RF systems, and SoCs that are designed for this, that are designed for the next 5 to 8 years of this back and forth connectivity of AI in the cloud, AI on device, something in between, and all the other processes happening. And in such a way that they're power efficient, fast, near zero latency, um, reliable, especially with vehicles. Now that we're seeing, the automotive space become more connected, have a lot more features inside the vehicles, a lot of Gen AI moving into the vehicles as well. You need a modem that can handle all this, and that's what they have here. And I think some of the things that I look at also is, Qualcomm's push of Wi-Fi 7, putting them on cars,
Right.
and it's like you need the modem solution first to be able to have an effective Wi-Fi 7, ecosystem on the user side of it. There's also the fixed wireless access piece, which is huge. I mean, it's basically, it's
Right.
so much cheaper, than laying fiber, that essentially wireless fiber is still one of the growth areas, I think, for the industry. And
Yes.
to be frank, fixed wireless access is sort of like, has some engineering challenges and some marketing challenges to overcome. And I think that coming out with a modem that addresses that specifically, and helps sort of smooth out the runway for an accelerated fixed wireless access adoption is really smart. So it just kind of like, it checks all the boxes that a year ago we were talking about, it needing to check, and it does.
Yeah, and I think this announcement really helps tie together. Yes, you definitely need, this particular offering, the Snapdragon X80, to address not only emerging new Gen AI and AI capabilities, but also really ensure that the ecosystem stays on target with the progress that's already built into the 3GPP release 16 through 18 specifications. And I think it's really a feel-good story that didn't get a lot of spotlight at the show because AI was so dominant. Is the fixed wireless access aspect. And yes, there is, on the horizon some capacity challenges in terms of the markets that are a little more, that are quite simply further along, such as in the US. But globally, it's really a good news story. In fact, it's one where we can anticipate there will be a tripling of FWA deployments because that's already proven itself. It's something that the operators are monetizing successfully. Already there's proving itself not in terms of just, okay, is it a new way to address digital divide, for example, reaching rural customers that have not had broadband yet, but it's also proving a compelling alternative to existing, say, DSL connections, some cable connections. And so there we go. And also, I think reminds us that 5G Advanced, let's be a little patient here, is going to be something that will, I think, really raise 5G's overall profile in terms of business outcomes and so forth, as we patiently see 5G standalone networks increasingly come on board. And so this will be like the long-awaited what is next that will, I think, change people's minds about, okay, 5G, it's a flop, it's a fizzle. Well, no, it's just still a pretty much, we're in the midpoint of the journey. And as we know, 5G adoption in its beginning stages happen more rapidly than, say, at the beginning stages of LTE. So yes, I think there was a lot of, I guess you could say, heightened expectations. But I think, what the show is showing, that 5G can certainly align with using Gen AI to improve the overall profile of the carrier, but also it's keeping in line with the natural evolutionary steps that 5G has already presented to the ecosystem.
Yep, absolutely.
And on that, I would say, heartwarming note. Thank you so much again, Olivier, for joining the call today. I think we were able to both overcome, at least I appreciate you helping with my, this, ongoing allergy issues, but that too shall pass.
Yeah, it's one of those seasonal things, and mine hasn't even hit super hard yet, but like I can't wait.
Well, hey, I can give you a preview, but uh, with that, thank you everybody for joining and listening in on our podcast. We always appreciate it. And naturally, don't forget to bookmark us, reserve us for our next upcoming 5G factor. And with that, again, everyone, have a good and healthy 5G day.